Okay, hi, I'm Sujit Ramanna. Um, I am the president of the Bombay Rock Association. The Bombay Rock Association is basically an organization that promotes rock music and has been around since 1997. It's an organization that promotes rock music through organizing rock shows across the country, and we'll also look at going abroad. We're doing shows and stuff like that. What we do actually in terms of organizing shows is that we get sponsorships from corporate entities and we organize rock shows um, in various pubs or auditoriums and outdoor locations. Besides which, we operate like a community where we have members who are basically rock fans and who become members of the association. And these people are then informed about rock shows happening across in the city or across the country wherever they're happening. Uh, so it's basically operates like an organization as well as an image management company which organizes rock shows. So that's what the organization is about. Um, you go ahead now.
Me.
Introduce yourself.
Okay. I'm Dhaval and I'm the vice president of Bombay Rock. But then mostly all these designations are, yeah, they're good, but we all do everything. Everyone does everything right from organizing and PR, and everyone is like involved in everything here. And what I've been with Bombay Rock officially for the last 3 years when it came back, like it was dysfunctional for a couple of years. Then when it came back, since then I've been with Bombay Rock.
Okay, so what is the story of VRA? How has it evolved? When did it begin? And what is it evolved?
Yeah, it's well, um, in the start of the 90s actually the rock scene in India was sort of, I mean, was really in its peak in many ways because of the the introduction of various satellite channels, be it MTV or Channel V, and all these channels came in, and these channels sort of propped up the whole local rock scene, and you saw so many um, rock bands actually becoming famous, uh, both in terms of shows as well as recording, actually getting their albums out, um, and there were so many rock shows happening across in college campuses as well as general shows happening across the country. Now, what happened also eventually was that there were so many record labels who were signing up all these bands, and those bands actually started becoming popular across the country in a way which was unprecedented or ever seen in the rock scene. And those bands eventually, like someone, for example, like Indiscreet was uh, winning the Billboard Music Awards abroad, and it was that kind of progression which was happening with the rock scene. And later on, some the music channels went, they started focusing on different kinds of music, be it techno music or Bollywood, and that came into the music scene big time, and all some channels were completely focused on that, and so you sort of saw saw the waning of rock music going at that time, and so we thought, well, we as rock fans thought that something has to be done to sort of get the scene back going again, and so the that was the basic objective which the association was started, wherein we thought that if we sort of be the connect between the artist as well as the audiences which are out there wanting to watch these rock bands, then we will be that connect. So the rock band doesn't have to bother about looking for audiences around, where we get the audiences and tell them that this is shows happening across with the artists or the band, and so be that interface between the band and the audiences. So make the community grow as well as the because of that the rock bands grow popular and become bigger and bigger, and they get signed up with record labels again, and a lot more rock music is shown on television. So the whole cycle starts again. So that was the whole intention of Bombay Rock Association when it started off. It's an idea.
So she just mentioned that it went through a very lean phase.
Yes.
So what was that phase? When did it begin?
Well,
What happened?
actually, corporate sponsorship for rock shows is hard to come by. It's almost to the fact that you have to you know get everything done. As a product, if you want to sell it to a sponsor, you have to take care of so many things um, that because the sponsor per se is really not interested in the music. He's really interested in how his product is being marketed across or being seen across all these development. So now, if you have a very popular genre like Bollywood or something else, it's easy to sell these things to sponsors who could put in money. But sponsorship for rock shows was not very forthcoming. So you see, um, well, we went through our ups and downs in terms of when those not monies were not coming in. So it was a lean patch for us. So we were going through those ups and downs. But I think it's now come to a phase where rock music is generally seen as is still underground, but it's seen as uh, a genre of music which is across the country as well, and is popular among students and yuppies. So some way that those sponsors are now at least heeding to what event managers are when they're going to pitch to them are telling them. So I guess now it's changed or evolved in its way in terms of the rock scene. So we went through our ups and downs, and so but now we are in a position where we are able to sort of get the attention and sort of make everything work. So that was the lean patch strong.
When was the last show that BRA actually organized?
We did. We actually did a series of shows, and it was called City Rocks. City Rocks, in wherein we got a Canadian band down from they're from Toronto, and they were called Low Level Flight. And we actually did a series of shows across in Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, and Pune. It was done in Hard Rock Cafe in Bombay, Bangalore, and Pune, and it was done in Morrison Cafe as well as F Bar in Delhi. So we actually got their album released here with Times Music, and then we worked with actually the Canadian consulate for this, and the Consul General of Bombay, who's getting it, actually launched the album here at the Hard Rock Cafe in Bombay, where the performance that followed, and that's the kind of stuff we did.
So what was the response there? Like, how did BRA benefit from the whole process? As in, did it get a lot of coverage in the media? Did it, benefit out of it in another manner? What exactly happened?
Yeah, it's well, it's both. It's like media, of course. There was a lot of coverage that we got, both in terms of print as well as in um, TV as well, and some
Radio.
and radio stuff, because we also had a lot of promotions happening through radio as well, and so we got that attention. At the same time, naturally, for us to make this organization work, you need monies as well. So that is also a profit margin which also comes in with that, and that is the kind of stuff we did. So yeah, so it has its twin. It's not just about the band getting anything. It also has to make the organization move forward. So that's the whole idea as well.
So
Also, as far as the band is concerned, like LLF, before they came down, they were very apprehensive about performing in India because it's a complete, new territory for them. So they didn't know what to expect, but they were like completely bowled over by the kind of response that they got here, and they had a very good time. So now they are looking forward to coming here and playing again. And they have the band has like they have played over there with like Bon Jovi and stuff. So they want to
Like the
that's
vocalist
another.
for this band was this guy called Ryan Malcolm, who was also the first Canadian Idol, for example. So he's like the American Idol and the Indian Idol. He has the Canadian Idol. So he was pretty famous that way in Canada. But of course, he was unknown here. But we like wanted to get their videos here. We got played over at VH1 and stuff like that. We also got them here and did a promo show for them. So it was like great for like a new band trying to test the waters in a new market for them completely. So that was there. And as she was saying, like the response was like just phenomenal for in Pune, for example, the Hard Rock Cafe. It recorded the highest number of audience that it has ever seen in its history. So that is the kind of response that we got there. It was crazy all over the place actually.
okay, so now rock per se has a very bad image outside of the right circles. I guess you understand what I'm trying to say.
I
Yeah.
understand.
So, what do you think about that? Do you think there needs the mindset of the people needs to change, or whether they perceive it in a wrong manner? There's something else at work here.
See, I don't know. I think after a point the image will change because of late I think rock is being accepted a lot more than it was when I at least when I started listening to it. as far as like even Bollywood is concerned, like there was a point when it was not considered a good thing. Like, you know, you thought that, you know, only women with loose morals went to Bollywood, but now it's a big thing. So, you know, maybe rock will also see that day when they'll realize that it's not just about, you know, sex, drugs, and like whatever violence and all that. And it has like it has a revolutionary side to it also, because usually it is associated with revolution as well. So, but now I think it's a lot more. It's much better than what it used to be. I can quote an example from my family itself. Like, first my parents they were not very cool with, you know, the idea of listening to rock and all that, but now my brother is a guitarist, and, you know, also I'm also part of Bombay Rock, and they have no qualms about it, because they know it's not just about all the bad image that it's been. And then he's the president, and he doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke, he's not into drugs, so it's not just about that, I think.
Yeah,
And
I
he's
mean,
very non-violent, and he's a Gandhian.
yeah, so you know, I'm a teetotaler. I don't like smoke or anything. So I don't. So the thing for me, rock is actually as a form of expression, is an uninhibited expression. That's the most important thing I think about rock music as a form of art, because I would say that other genres of music actually are an expression where you're sticking to a certain line or certain, you know, form of where you're saying, oh, you can only, you know, experiment yourself in this contours or whatever. But rock has always been about uninhibited expression, but in a peaceful way. It's not like someone's going to kill someone. It's just a very, so it really gets all that repressed feelings of people that they have out in the open, and that's a good way of you know, as a society to evolve to be what it wants to be, really, rather than just, you know, all that pretense that you see outside. So that is the thing that which we think rock is about.
So, since you guys have been around since over a decade now,
Yeah.
so what is the difference that you've seen in the, what are the changes that you've seen in the whole rock music scene all over India, not just Bombay?
Um, what I've seen is, well, the stark difference is that now people, earlier you went on stage and you played original music, you just like got booed off stage. It's just one of those things that you get pelted with bottles, and you'll say, oh my god, where the hell am I? And you play the, you know, the Smoke on the Water, and then everyone is like on you, everyone's happy and everyone's really cool. Now it's sort of turned the other way. It's like you see a lot of musicians, or they're just playing the original music, and they play covers as well. It's good. And that is the bit which is most interesting for me to see, like, you know, from all as well, that they can play their original music and still be appreciated, and to see that difference is like something extremely wonderful, and because you never got to see something like that before. I've been to, like, you know, most of the independence rocks or whatever, and then you would say that at least 70% of that music that you saw that time, like they were playing, they would hardly squeeze in one or two originals, but they're mostly playing covers, and they were like, and you start whenever they played original music, they got put to balls, abuses came and everything. But that change has happened. That paradigm shift has happened in the rock music, and that's something. And now, you know, bands are known for the original music than they are for, you know, and that's the biggest change that I see, which is very good. Um, at the same time, uh, there's a lot of piracy which has got into music big time, and so now you don't. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I supposed? Huh? God. I'll call you back. I'll call you back. Give me 2 minutes. Yeah. So, you know, the point is that the artist also needs to eat. So you know, all this piracy in the music is like something that, you know, is not. It's healthy for people who are just starting off, and you know, you can see so much of music there on the internet. At the click of a button, you can actually access some artists who's out there. Uh, but at the same time, you know, the artist is hardly making any money out of it, and that's why it's sort of killing the music as well in some ways. So so it has its pros and cons, but it's generally, you know, there has to be more focus on the artist in terms of the money he makes. That's more important, and I'm sure there'll be like ways in which it will evolve, in the sense that like the artist will also start making money out of it. But right now it seems like you're getting to see a lot of music on the internet and everything, but the artist is at the end of the day not making enough money for it. So that's a little shaky that way.
What about the difference in the way the music scene has been running? Uh, Like today, you again have the clubs coming in, but say 5 years back, there were, except for not just jazz, but I don't actually remember any other club that actually supported live music. So what about in the early 90s? Has the scene changed?
Well, that
What
was
was the difference?
honestly speaking, Raspberry Rhinoceros was one place where I mean, it was like a mainstay of all rock bands. If they come to Bombay, they had to play at Raspberry, and that show used to happen every Thursday and used to be like, there was of course not just Jazz by the Bay. Um, Having said that, there are all these new clubs which have come up. There is an element of it which is a little sort of controversial. I don't know what to say that, but the point is that all these clubs only support music which is sort of a commercial kind of music. They will not allow you to play too many originals there. They will not allow your band to put in their names there, or put your website out there saying that this is, you can go and check out the music. So they stick to bands who are a lot more commercial, in the sense that they only they are allowed to play there. And so certain focus is not there in the original music, that I would like to see grow. So that way, these clubs, but I think the clubs is like they're really, I mean, something which is a breath of fresh air for Bombay as well, and that you see all these new clubs are coming up. But there's also an element to that which is not, sometimes you feel that only certain kind of bands can play there, and you cannot play original music as well. And the ones that play are also not allowed to play original music. So it's like, so sometimes you feel that there's a sort of pros and cons about it. But I think it's a good development, because you never used to see so many clubs coming out with live music stuff around. So yeah, I think it's a good thing.
How did gigs actually happen in the early 90s? In the 90s, where were the gigs usually held?
Well, in Bombay, it was at Rang Bhavan, of course, was the biggest thing. I mean, Rang Bhavan was like the mecca of rock music in the country, and so when it came down, it was like a big blow to the rock. We actually held a demonstration at Azad Maidan to stop the going down of Rang Bhavan there. So we did that, and it was like yeah. So it was a big blow, but um, I would say during that time, because there was a lot of awareness and a lot of people used to actually like follow rock music very religiously. You used to see so many rock shows in college campuses, like and there were so many bands operating at that time that really were playing all over the place, and not just in Bombay, but like all over the place. Um, so I would say college campuses. I would say these clubs, which are a few clubs. Um, what else was there? And then the bizarre places that they suddenly will say that, oh, let's do a show here in an outdoor place, something like that, and they would say that, yeah, like for example, that could be something in Gorai, a place there where they would just suddenly say, let's have a rock show or something, and it would happen there. But there was nothing like, for example, like a Hard Rock Cafe or this time then, but you saw a lot more religious following of rock music in that moment of time, because you didn't have any internet to go by or whatever. So you had to sort of queue up or wait for the day when it's going to release, and it's going to see on the rack, and then buy the album or that kind of stuff. So now it's very easy. Just go on the internet and you can get the music there. So yeah, that's what it's about.
So there was no official support from any organization per se. It was very much an unorganized sector which was supporting itself in its own manner. But
Absolutely, it still is in many ways. I mean, if you look at it very strictly, it's only the people who stuck around and who did something, who regardless of they were not making profits, or it was driven purely by passion, that they stuck around and they did what they did. It was there was never any infrastructural support given, or the system never got into believing in what this thing was about and supporting it. It was always been about, like, mavericks out there saying, we'll do what we want to do, and it's always been about how passion is always driven it. It's never been about like some kind of support system given to that particular genre of music.
But today, say a pub like Firangi Pani and
Yeah.
all these chains that are coming, they are actually driving it the other way around. They are actually supporting the scene because they see some profit in it.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like it I would say that these clubs are coming up because the scene has evolved into a thing where it can actually get the attention of these entities. For example, be it the clubs, be it maybe even the record labels, some of the record labels right now, to get that attention to say, okay, this may be something that we maybe from 10 years from now it can become really really big or something. So that kind of attention is sort of drawing it. But I I mean, the thing is, even with the clubs, for example, if at some point of time you see that the rock thing is going down, they will, they'll be probably the first people to say, put their hands up and say, oh, it's not working. So unless it's not making commercial sense to them, they're
And
not
they
supporting.
basically play it safe by giving us a slot on a weekday. They'll never give you a weekend. Saturday, Sunday are mostly ruled out. Like, when you're, even if the slot is empty, they'll mostly say that's the commercial night. We'll have a DJ on that day. It'll be mostly at the most Friday. That's it. We've hardly ever got weekends because that makes more commercial sense to them because there is a DJ. There'll be more people coming in. So they do it like till the point it makes sense to it makes commercial sense to them.
Like,
So
for example, we did this in 2007. We did this festival called Shark Tooth Live Storms. It was 41 shows across 5 cities: Bombay, Delhi, Pune, Bangalore, Calcutta, and it was done in pubs and auditoriums and outdoor venues. And it was the nation's longest rock festival. Went on for 5 months. 75 bands across the country participated. But most of the pubs, you thought you never you never got a Saturday or you never got a Friday. It was always the weekdays that you got, or a Sunday. You got a Sunday or a Thursday or whatever. But you never got like a Saturday or a Friday or that kind of stuff. It's like that's commercial. That's why we make all the money. So you're not getting that place. So it was that kind of stuff. So it as long as making commercials, and in many ways it is right also for because you don't expect the nightclub to just fall flat and say I'm not I'm not considering the commercial at all, and so that's what I'm saying. It's getting the attention, it is getting the right attention, but it has to also grow, and that push will not come from anywhere else. It has the rock thing has to push itself. There's no other system actually supporting it to move forward in any way. So that is the thing of it. It's as long as it's making commercial sense to all these entities, they will support it, which is fair enough, I guess, for those people. So
it's much anyway. Even if it's a weekday, it's much better than not having anything at all.
yeah, exactly.
So it's good. At least they're open to giving it on weekdays.
Remember a question here.
Tell us, since you have been around since almost 10 years or so, tell us some experience that you guys, that you remember from your shows that you have organized or something, since, something way back which happened during the...
Okay, right.
Most of, the documentaries that we are making will probably be bought or, given to people who are new,
Right.
who definitely were not there around at that time.
Right.
So, so do you have any experience or something from that particular time to tell us?
Who's answering that question?
I wasn't there at that time.
It can be funny experience or anything.
Yeah, anything. Yeah. Embarrassing, funny. Something that you remember very well.
I don't know even. Maybe this is not. I don't know. I'll just say it. Whether you want to put it there or not, that's okay. But the thing is, like the element that was, the most fun for me actually going to concerts was that there was almost so much of this comedy happening in the audiences all the time. Like and it was not harmful comedy or anything. It's like everyone has a smart comment to make. Everyone has it's an atmosphere of like in the whole thing which really added to the whole thing. Like for example, at one Independence Rock, I remember there was this band performing, and Lee was the sponsor for it, and they were giving the prizes for the the best band and whatever on the last day. So and Lee had just like launched maybe 2 years ago or something, or 1 year ago, something like that, and the Lee head of America head was there to give away the prize, and he was on stage, and Father is doing all this thing. So and it was just, and it was nothing personal. It was just that Lee had that time had a slogan saying Lee, the genes that built America. So that's how it was, and the audience sort of, and you don't know who started, and you don't know what, and he's on stage and he's about to just about to announce that particular thing, and he's saying, okay, so this guy with, and the whole audience just starts off with a chant, and that guy's standing on stage, the head for America, and the crowd goes, Lee, the genes that fucked America. It was like a whole chant and went, Lee, the genes that fucked. That guy couldn't do anything. He was like smiling, and what could he do? Like he was just there and standing there. Like, oh my god, and it was so embarrassing, and it was funny at the same time. But it was nothing like personal. I mean, the crowd didn't. It wasn't antagonizing. It was just that they want to do something funny during that time, so they did it. Like it's like that. So these things sort of keep happening with the rock audiences. I remember there was this one time there was this girl called Mohini Singh. Now she was from Calcutta and she was there at the Independence Rock, and she was a solo artist. Now the thing with the Bombay audience is like it's always discerning. It's like the most. I mean, even if they're not pleased for a moment, like they will just go out with the views and everything. Now the thing is, someone like Mohini Singh, when they say Mohini Singh, like, you have all these big bands that are going to be performing, and say Mohini Singh, oh my God, who the hell is she? So she was from Calcutta and she's a solo artist, and poor her, she came on stage. This audience is going, I don't know, so I'm sorry, she was announced that she's coming on stage, so she was an artist with, the guitar coming. This whole audience will start chanting, Mohini, Mohini, Mohini. Like for the movie plays up. Oh my god, it was so freaking fun. And then she came in, and they didn't allow her at all to play. It was like they were going on and on with it. It was, oh my god. Poor her. I mean, like, I just felt sorry for her coming on stage like that. But for the crowd, it was like an absolute, God, so much laughter that time. But that's the thing, like, in many ways, if you, it was aptly called Independence Rock because it was on the 15th of August. It used to happen. And people in that time really felt free and to say what they want to say. They didn't give a shit about anything at that time. So in many ways, it was a good celebration of the Independence Day. In many ways, so so yeah. So these some of the experiences. I have lots, but maybe I'll tell it some other time. So, yeah. So.
So, what do you think is the way ahead for the rock scene?
Oh, rock scene, right. Well, actually, the thing is that, but sure.
You want water?
Yeah. Okay. The thing is, now the rock scene is in a such, and it's not just about India. It's like worldwide, because you have everything on the net, like, and it's just available on that. It is becoming increasingly hard for artists to sort of support everything, like, because they have to get their albums recorded. They have to make videos, and it costs a lot of money. And if you're, I mean, for the big established bands, it's okay to sort of have that kind of luxury because the record labels will pay for it. These days, record labels and stuff like that will not pay for all these things because they're saying that, like, we're not going to make that kind of money out of you in any case, so we're not very forthcoming. It will, the way forward for any artist across the world right now is to use the situation into their advantage, wherein you say that you make you record the song, you put it out on the net, without any making out of money of it. Just make yourself as familiar with the audiences as possible, so that they know your songs, they know who you are. Put your profiles out, and if you can afford to put a video that do that as well. But put yourself out there as much as possible. And then what happens is that you don't make your money out of the song itself. Because selling your records and whatever, in any case, never used to make you that much money actually. But if you put yourself out there, what will happen is that there'll be some people, and that's the beauty of the internet, is because everyone across the world can see you. Just the moment you put it out, it's at the click of the thing. Someone in Helsinki could click and say that this video is out. I know this. Now, the more you put it out there, the more chances are that you will get a lot more rock shows or a lot more live performances for you to be present in. And the money that's usually made, and even for bigger bands now actually across, is through live shows. So the live shows will actually drive everything. Like Live Nation is that concept where you have all these bands who are under Live Nation, and they're doing live shows across. They're booked for the whole year and stuff like that. So live shows will actually drive the industry rather than anything else. So and that is the way the artist should look at it and move in that direction, because there is no point in saying now that I have this song and I want money for it, and there's absolutely no point, because the moment you put your record out, there's someone who's going to record that thing and put it on the net, and then everyone can download it. So rather than fight it, you might as well go ahead and join it, and then say that you can then look at a successful case. And you can, because live shows, the money you get from live shows is much more than you will get anywhere close from your. And once you get popular, then when your record label says, okay, I'm going for the second album, that time you can charge money, because you have a kind of audience out there that is waiting for you to do your second album. So for a starter, it is always about like putting your album out there as much as possible, and putting your faces out there as much as possible, rather than fighting the system and saying that no, I will not put it out. So that's what I think is the way forward for the industry to look at.
And I think it also, it's basically the audience is the listeners who are like, other than obviously the band, it's the listener who is the most important person here, because obviously the bands are making music for them and not for the producers or anything. So they have to buy albums and don't look for like free entries at shows, and you just support as much as you put in your money in the scene. It's just going to grow, because there are so many people who just want to be on the guest list at a show, and then the pubs say ki, we can't allow so much guest list, because and they have to come in. They're like, no, half the people are on the guest list. We are not making any money from at least the tickets from the gate. And a lot of times like we have to split the monies with the clubs, like 50% each. So it's either the organizers who end up going into loss, or then the pub. And in both the cases, it's the bands that suffer, because if it's not commercially viable for anyone, no one is going to be interested in it. So I guess they just and anyway, the albums don't cost that much. Like all the Indian albums, 100, 200 bucks, or even the tickets for shows are not priced that much. I think they should just pay and go there instead of looking for free entry and all that. That's really, it's going to really help. Like even if it seems like a very small amount, 100, but then it's really important, I guess.
Yeah.
So what is BRA currently involved in? What is in future projects or plans?
Well, actually, we are planning on something, but but I can't say it on camera. It's under wraps right now. It's just that I maybe will announce it maybe 10, 15 days from now, but I can't do it right now. It's just like I can't. It's something big, but we can announce it only something maybe 10.
It's a general idea.
No, it's about it's about rock shows, of course. It's about rock shows, and we're trying to take it further than India, and look at ways we're doing it. Yeah, so that's all I'm saying.
Another Shark Tooth.
Shark Tooth, like something like Shark Tooth, we are looking at that format as well of doing shows locally, because that's again something that we are completely focused on, of local rock music as well. So yeah, absolutely, we'll look at that format in terms of in sometime towards the end of the year, that we're doing the similar kind of shows across the country. So, yeah.
So, suppose there's a new band that is coming up. Okay, it's put its stuff out on the net, but it's still not able to get the live shows done.
Right.
Organizing proper shows, it's not getting shows to play.
Right.
So, what are steps that it can take to go ahead?
Well, I would say that if first of all, of course, you have to put yourself out there and saying, put it in your MySpaces, put it in, Kickpad, this and that, and as your online or whatever, put it out there. But I would say that get in touch with the clubs here in across the city, as well as for also get in touch with a lot of colleges who are doing festivals and stuff like that. They will certainly look at. I mean, you will not be getting like paid a lot or whatever during that time, but if you get in touch with like the college fest the college fest which happen across in city as well as across the country, you will at least get some kind of like a opening slot or whatever. So once you made yourself like a presence out there, and you get into the thing, then you're maybe that's a first important step you need to take to sort of go further. It is because if you are if you're going to restrict yourself just to that bit of like putting your music out there and not doing anything about, it's not going to help. It's just you need to contact the clubs, you need to get in touch with the college festivals, you need to also maybe look at contacting people from various different organizations who are involved with doing rock shows and stuff like that. That's an important first step to take to go out there and reach out.
Anything else? I guess that was the last question from me.
There is something on BRA open nights which you guys used to do,
Jamming session.
the jam sessions. Yeah.
Oh, jam set. Oh, that concept was just like it was purely party actually. It was like you just we got we got people to, because you don't see that kind of very casual atmosphere happening with jamming sessions. Like jamming sessions is where you just people just get around. Some people who know how to play the guitar start singing and start playing. So there's a lot of partying. It's about meeting each other, knowing more people. It's about food and booze and having a great party. It's about that. At the same time, music will sort of give you that whole flavor of getting that whole emotional thing out of you, and like enjoying having a good time with your friends. So that was the whole concept. So when you have all this mix, it's going to click with any people who say, oh, live music is happening, and there's going to be all this stuff. People will come, and so it's that's how we're looking at the jamming sessions, and that's how we do it. But it's not like a whole big 500 people or something else. It's just
Usually 40.
like 40, 50 people coming out doing that thing.
But it's also like there are a few of our friends who have like they've kind of formed a band together,
Yeah.
and they've started like jamming and they want to start doing shows, and they met at the jamming session here,
Yeah.
which is how it helps. And also like two of our friends who touched the guitar after 3 years, and they said, oh, we are not any good at it because we haven't played for the last years. And everyone is really encouraging. They say it doesn't matter, we are not great musicians ourselves, and whoever is an amateur and who just does it for the fun of it, and then they start playing and they get a hang of it, and believe me, they get so happy. And then they say we are really glad for these jamming sessions because we are going to take this seriously now, and we'll probably start practicing like we used to, and let's have more sessions so that at least we are in touch with the with our music side, and we are not just lost in our jobs and all that. So that's the kind, and it's really feel very good that you've been able to do something of that sort for these people who are really into music.
And it's more than is the sort of it's people getting together more than anything else. Like in sometimes in a concert you can go and it's very impersonal thing. You go to concert, you listen to the music, and you go back. But the whole thing about enjoying with people, the music bit of it, that's a completely different experience to have, and that's something that the jam actually captures perfectly. So that's the thing. My experiences are more, or people from my my age group or whatever, the experiences of music has always been about starting off with independence rock, going to independence rock and going to the Mood Eye. It's always been a kind of experience that you waited for all the time. Like it could be about like watching all the videos of international artists on the music channels, and then saying that, oh my god, when am I going to see a rock concert happening here? Waiting for the longest time for the Guns N' Roses and the Metallicas of the world to come, but they never came, and that kind of thing. But you always wanted to sort of get these bands to somehow come, and so you always, if that's not happening, then maybe I will look at how the Indian band's doing and stuff like that. So the time that you got to do this was, uh, independence rock as well as Mudai here in Bombay, and you waited for that all the time. Now, what happened was in the early 90s or whatever is that you saw a big surge of the grunge thing happening, and and I'm talking about the Nirvanas and the Pearl Jams or whatever. Before that, you see, there was a lot of Metallica and Guns N' Roses and stuff like that happening, and so you saw like the likes of Indiscreet and Agni and all these bands like really up there and doing that kind of stuff. Um, what happened with the grunge thing was that that whole element now shifted to a lot of grunge stuff happening, and so you saw different kinds of bands evolving from that particular thing. So a lot of Pearl Jam was played by the likes of the Splits, the who was there? The Splits who used to play it, and who was played? God, Rust Angels was another band that used to do. I mean, that was not, of course, playing. That was not playing grunge, but they used to play, different kind of glam rock kind of stuff that they used to play. There was this band called Mayhem that was around. There was, but I'm just going to so you have to cut and do whatever. I'm just going to tell you what used to happen at the time. So all of these bands who used to play all these grunge material, they sort of started growing in numbers, and so you also besides having the mainstays of your um, the Indiscreets or Agnis who used to headline particular shows, you had all these other bands who used to play at Independence Rock, and they used to do a lot of grunge and stuff like that. So in many ways, it used to give the audience a very good experience because you had the kind of classic rock kind of feel coming from Indiscreet and all these bands. Tennessee used to play original, but they also used to do a lot of classic rock, and so did the Parikramas and that kind of stuff. But since that was the whole surge, the grunge surge sort of got many more bands getting into the scene, and that sort of went on for the longest time, and people used to um, frequent a lot of rock shows across. There were then you had the pentagrams coming into the scene. You had Parikrama also, like big surge during that time from the early 90s and going into mid 90s and stuff like that. You had something like a Zero coming out of the scene who just played originals and who got booed off stage when they started off like all the time. But it was only and then but regardless of whatever happened, they always stuck to playing originals. And at some point of time, the audience is sort of getting them into the system, and they start appreciating the music. And then they only wanted to see Zero play originals, and that's the kind of following they developed. So in many ways, they were also pioneers. So was the likes of Indiscreet, because Indiscreet also put their albums out there. Like I remember when Indiscreet put their album out, um, though not a I think the maximum number of copies that was sold by an Indian uh, rock artist at that time was Indiscreet, and uh, for so many number of copies that actually went out, I remember like them going to the Northeast, and there were some 5,000 copies, unauthorized copies, floating out there, and they were listening to their music. So it was like for them, it was just like, oh my god, what the hell? I mean, if this was actually like our album, we would have gotten some money out of it. You know what I'm saying? But they to me, like if you ask me which is the most successful band ever in India, that will probably be Indiscreet, because they first of all, they got like to put their videos out there. Their original music was appreciated a lot. They reached the point where they were representing India in many ways in terms of the rock thing, and they went to the Billboard Music Awards. They won there in terms of the best Asian artist, and so it was probably the best Indian artist I've known, at least, or the most successful one in that way. Uh, then you went to a bit of, I would say, lull, because of the fact that so much of different kind of music was being shown on TV and stuff like that. So that kind of sort of got into the bit of maybe there was this kind of feeling that people were coming in that during that time where rock is dying and this and all that thing started during that time. And but I mean, it was always about like if people just believed in what they wanted to do and didn't give a shit about anything else, they would still do it. So, and that was the driving content for different kinds of bands, which started off towards the end of the 90s, where you had different kinds of music. For example, Pentagram experimented with different kind of sound, where they got they were sort of getting prodigy lines into there, and there was more of electronica getting into the music, and that kind of evolution happened. You had to this present day, you have different kinds of electronica music now firmly entrenched into the music of the rock or whatever of what you see right now. In what has also happened is that, like for example, Delhi evolved into a different electronica scene. For example, there's a lot of electronica happening there, which is more popular right now actually than rock music. I mean, you see so much of that happening, and that has evolved because of the whole electronic shift that is also seen in rock music around here. Um, um, at the same time, I would say that there is now that you see a different flavor of rock music in terms of now Indian rock bands playing in their own ethnic tongues or whatever is also gaining popularity. So it's that evolution of rock music happens all the time in a very interesting kind of way, and it's a good thing. Like we just feel that if that evolution doesn't happen, it's just going to stay stagnant, and that sound is going to stale at some point of time. So at various points of time, people have always sort of tried to tried something different, tried something experimental, and for some people it worked, some people it didn't. But at the end of the day, it's just been a good evolution of music, as always been, even in the West, for example. It's always been like that. So yeah, so that's what I don't know what more to say.
You know, during the start, like Zero, Pentagram,
Yeah.
Parikrama, and these bands had different members and different, the music
Yes.
which they started out with was probably different. And, as you said, Pentagram went ahead with and changed to becoming an electronic rock kind of outfit.
Yeah.
So, apart from Pentagram, what kind of other bands do you still enjoy in the scene who are still like,
I'm a bit of, I mean, that in that way I'm a little old school sometimes. So I like Parikama a lot. Like even I mean I still love them. To see them live, it's just a great feeling to do some of that original old school classic rock, which sort of gets you up and that kind of thing. Um, the other kinds of bands, I used to like the Agni that was before they turned into a different Agni. It was Bharat, when Bharat left from um, Agni and went to Dubai, and then they formed a new, and they changed into a Hindi rock band. Uh, I don't like them so much right now. I used to like the original Agni better, but they're still a different.
the last I Rock they played with?
Yeah, with Bharat, yes, absolutely. And like for example, their first album, which is Wind Dance and with Fire, it was, and I'm telling you, that album was probably the best freaking album that I have heard in that time. That album, if it was properly promoted, could have fucking won the Grammys. It was that good in terms of the content. But it was just the time that they were in, that they didn't get that kind of promotion, or the promotional tools were not there for them to put themselves out there in the world or whatever. But Agni in many ways was the band that was really something different. Uh, Another band from the south was Millennium. Millennium was a band that people in Bombay used to go crazy about. Like they used to crave for a Millennium to come there, and they were a metal band, and it was a crazy combination. The guy is a surgeon or some. Rio is a surgeon. Rion is a surgeon, and he used to. And I'm not very sure about it, but I've heard that while he was doing his surgery, he used to put metal music and do his surgery. That was how crazy it was, and I'm not sure about it. It's yeah, but they were very cool guys, and like the legends of metal in India in many ways. In here in Bombay, there was, of course, Brahma was a band that was really known across. I was not such a big fan, honestly speaking, but for whatever they did, they were really good with it. So yeah, so those bands were some bands that were really doing the bit of it. Um, Zero as a band was in many ways a revolution because they just stuck to their original music. They didn't compromise ever. Like this, when they're out there, they got pelted with bottles all the time. In Venice Rock, you see all the bottles coming at Zero all the time, but they never stopped. It's like, oh, it doesn't matter. They're stuck, and then suddenly people is a different reaction. If they're liking the music and they're doing all this stuff, and suddenly it gets in the system and they become like really big in terms of what the original music they're doing. And so in many ways they were sort of the pioneers in putting the original music out there. And then the whole different kind of bands then started doing the same thing. So in many ways I would say that Indiscreet and sort of Zero put the whole original music thing into the scene. And now you see this whole shift of you play 80%. Earlier used to be 80% covers and 20% or 10% originals. Now you just do 80% originals and maybe 10% covers or whatever. So that has worked in that favor. So yeah, so that whole shift has happened, primarily because of those people.
That's it. Thank you. So tell us how BRE works then.
How BRE works. Be more specific. If you can.
Okay, you're organizing.
Student.
You're getting low level flight down. How did it happen? What all steps did you go through?
Basically, we've been coordinating with our counterparts in the Canadas for a long time, almost for a year or something, and we've built a pretty good relationship with them. So, and we've been thinking of getting the local bands in Canada down to India. So what we did with City Rocks, we created a property, made it into a property, and what we want to do with it is like you want to get bands regularly down on a consistent basis to India, introducing new bands, from the world in this country. And so basically we shortlisted. We got the opportunity to get Low Level Flight, which is a brilliant band. It's a indie alternative band and it's doing really well in Canada. So basically, we decided to get them down. So the first step that we did was we got them signed up with Times Music. So the methodology was that we're going to launch the album and do a promote over there. So we got them signed up with Times Music, and they were really supportive of they were really supportive in that sense. And then we created this property, and then it was the regular thing, hunting for sponsors and I did the presentation.
So basically,
It's
we used to sit for whole night for presentation, for design, and to making this cutting of
basically
posters.
I was the one who was working, and these guys are he's normally drinking over here. So basically that's how it goes. Anyway, it was a really good experience.
Yeah.
I mean, all of us we actually at a point of time we were 48 hours to a stretch, not even sleeping before City Rock for the Low Level Flight thing. That was almost a week before that it was going to happen. And then it was the shows, and we really enjoyed the shows. We almost got lost. We couldn't find Hard Rock Cafe in Pune. That was a really good trip.
For an hour.
For an hour. We were in Pune and we must have traveled from the north to the south of Pune and we couldn't find Hard Rock Cafe. And everybody, nobody can guide in Pune, man. Nobody can
No,
get
it was the
direction.
1st of April. People were just making food.
Making food of
Yeah.
us. Yeah, probably that. Yeah. So that was pretty much it.
For this Low Level Flight, I took a leave for 1 week, and that whole week was like a biggest hectic day because I used to come at morning 8 o'clock and leave by 2 o'clock, and there was a day where between 48 hours we were over here working for this Low Level Flight and going for the design thing, print out the prints and everything. The 10 cards, the cutting of the 10 cards, pasting them. So more than 1,010 cards in 2 hours. Then just imagine.
Basically, one funny thing happened. We got this thing printed and all, and the printer was we won't cut it because it was too urgent. So we got a blade and we started cutting over there because we needed to get the branding material out to Hard Rock Cafe as soon as possible. So instead of depending on someone, it was late in the night we started doing it ourselves. So I mean, it's a pretty small team. So basically, we all we don't feel shy of doing anything, even if it's the smallest work. We have to do it. because in the end you have to make the show happen. So that is very important.
But the best part is that everyone over the team, like they have contributed their maximum, and really it's a good teamwork over here. So
And for half of the gig in Bombay, he was standing outside, making
Yeah.
sure
yeah,
that
making sure
guest
there's no
doesn't
fake
increase.
entrance over here.
So he missed half the show. We were enjoying. We were like having our drinks inside. That was fun.
Okay.
So if you want a free entry, then he'll be the guy who's standing. So better like treat him or something.
Assis.
Sorry, Vasi. Better come to
No, no,
picture
he's,
our
he's an
teacher.
old monk guy.
Yeah,
Old mom.
of course. So how big old monk? Don't be a smaller one. Yeah.